Our heart's so true, our courage will pull us through. You teach me and I'll teach you about the intersections of queer culture and nerd culture. Welcome to the Rainbow Connection podcast. I'm your host, Allison Hadley, and today joining me is Grand Masala and Kelso. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Yeah, hi, my name is Kelso. My pronouns are they, them, and I am thrilled to be here as a massive Pokemon lover.
Hi, I go by Grand Masala in drag, and out of drag, I'm Michael Rajan. I use any pronouns as long as you're respectful.
Okay, and I just want to ask, just as a quick question here, what would you say is the singular Pokemon you identify with the most?
The singular Pokemon we identify with the most. For me, it's Sylveon, specifically a shiny Sylveon, because that is like the T-boy Sylveon, as far as I'm concerned. Because I don't know if you've ever seen a Sylveon, but very
Not
like
in
trans.
person.
Well, no, you know. If you play Pokemon Go, you may have.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the colors are like very trans flag and give me major like T-boy vibes. So like definitely a Sylveon for me.
Nice.
So, funnily enough, I identify the most with the Jinx. For various reasons. It was one of my first powerhouses when I ever played, and then the controversy, you know, as a queer person, we love our underdogs, so I was like, I'm gonna support this girl through and through, and now I just have a really big soft spot for that very unfortunate Pokemon.
Why would you say Jinx is unfortunate?
It ends up on a lot of people's lower tier lists, so to speak.
I don't know what you're talking about. So, One thing about Pokemon is the universe is always expanding, and like nowadays there's well over 8 different types of Pokemon, like well over.
Correct.
And the thing is, when you have that many, that there's a lot of things for people to identify with. You can find specific things, and you can find specific traits, and you identify with that. Like you can be like, oh, this is a weird little guy in the way that I'm a weird little guy, and so like, I would say, are the ones that you picked, are they sort of your weird little guy energies for them, or?
Oh, yeah.
If you've seen a Jinx and you've seen Grand Masala, yes. That is like perfect.
that would be my penultimate drag persona, is just doing a Jinx number. That would be like me and my swan song out.
Yeah, I'm done, I'm not topping.
Right, yeah.
But that was the thing, is actually one I knew I had to ask you to be on the show, is I saw your Alakazam number, which was incredible.
Thank you.
And like, can you just walk us through that a bit? Because that was just a really cool performance.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Abracadabra by Lady Gaga came out, and it was kind of making the rounds, and I was sitting there listening to it, and I got a lot of popularity for its inclusive choreography. And I was like, oh, I could learn this, or I could do something really rotted with it. And so I decided to be a Pokemon with it. And so there's Abracadabra and there's Alakazam. And so I said, let's do a Kadabra, but let's evolve from an Albra in the middle of it. So I just found pieces of articles that make it into like, you know, more of a drag version of itself. And it just kind of came together. It was for like a monster themed, kind of horror themed show. So I had to grid it up.
It was a Halloween one, wasn't it?
Was it? No, it was something else because it was earlier, like in April.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it was, so I thought if Pokemon were real and they actually evolved, they would either leave behind carcasses or probably eat their own carcass. So I put a pie under the sheet of Abra that I painted, and then halfway through the number, I just started devouring myself. So that's kind of where that came from. In the future iterations, I've abandoned that part of it. But yeah, that's kind of how it came about. I just want to create something different. I saw some other people do very similar versions of it, but they didn't really do much with it. And so I wanted to make it a bit more unique.
They didn't have a pie?
No, right? I mean, they didn't have cannibalism or specialism.
I don't even know what that would be, is if you're Oh, that's actually really a deep sort of philosophical thing, like eating your past self.
Right.
Like that's the only way you can truly move on is by eating your past self.
And as a psychic type, I mean,
That's how you get the mind powers of your previous form, right? Like,
yeah. I'm not strong enough to bend a spoon though, so I got one of my friends to do it beforehand. So I had 2 spoons. So I'm working on maybe getting a little bit stronger, so I can bend it in the middle of my actual act. So that's what I'm hoping to do for that swan song version.
how many swan songs are you having? It's like a whole flock of them, I guess.
I have a rule where I kind of want to do a number about 5 times, then I want to kind of retire it. Yeah. So this is getting I think my 4th version of it in November, and then it has one more last one.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't wait to see what Pokemon you pick next.
I have. You'll see it in November too.
Oh, I'm so excited. My dream has always been to do like a Magikarp evolving into a Gyarados type number.
So much fun.
I think that would just be like, yeah, because I also think that Magikarp is like an underrated Pokemon. Like that fish flops around. He just flops. And like, I get that. I get that. When I was a tiny little egg and just a sad little closeted queer person, I was just flopping through the world. And then I evolved into my Gyarados form. And I was like,
yeah, you mean over the waterfall.
Yeah, it's over for all of you.
Actually, I have seen a burlesque number done for along that effect. And it's amazing. I'll send it to you. It's so good. Like,
there's so many ways you can go with it too.
Yes. There's so many ways you can go with it, and I'm sure your way would be different. But I'm like, I think you would enjoy this one.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure I send that to you. So actually, just let's take it back to the start. So what kind of got you into Pokemon, or what, if it's a different answer, what made you feel that connection to it? Like, even if you liked it or you knew of it before, what was kind of your moment where you're like, okay, yeah, this is my jam?
When I was growing up, Pokemon was a boys' game, and it was kind of like, yeah, like it was interesting because I always played Pokemon, like the trading card game, and I collected the cards, and people were always like, that is a boy thing to do. That's not like actually like a genderless experience. That is very much attached to like men and boys, and it's kind of like a video game, which is like boy world. And I had rejected it for a really, really long time, but I had always kept all of my Pokemon stuff. So I had like secretly been collecting all of these like little like things and putting them away without people noticing, because I didn't want to be labeled as a boy, because
ew,
how dare I? And then I grew up and I kind of like left home and I brought all of my stuff. Like there was this like one moment of time where my mom was like, here's everything from your childhood because you're gone. So here, like, you may as well be gone. And she gave me everything from my childhood.
Any reminders of you?
Literally though, I got my friggin' like report cards from kindergarten. Like she was like, we are done here. And there was all this Pokemon stuff in it. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, like it just gave me such like a response. And then like a few years later, I came out as trans and I was like, every Pokemon is trans. And that was it for me.
That is the deep dive for Pokemon and gender, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those things it was portable. I mean, you had the Game Boy and it's something you could pick up and play. And there's so many things to do and there's so many things to uncover because like the internet was juvenile back then. And so you had to find the magazines and all the information you would find, which is so different. And like, yeah, you didn't know what you liked. I mean, I think the first time I played through, I had an entire team of water types just because I was like, they're so cute and pretty. And I love that they're all blue coated. I don't know. Yeah, that wasn't helpful for me to make it through the game, but you know, I did it.
So what was the first game for you?
Pokemon Blue, actually.
Okay,
yeah, I did not like Charizard. I like Blastoise, so I went with those, hydro cannons, and the rest is history. I think about it all the time.
You think about that all the time?
No, just Pokemon in general.
Oh, okay.
Just specifically Blastoise.
Like cannons, yeah.
So, okay, so on that, so like, from sort of humble origins where there's a few things that keeps growing and growing, and now Pokemon's become this like massive global thing, and it's always growing. And like, do you have any thoughts on how it's grown and how the fandom and the universe itself has evolved?
I have a lot of thoughts, good or not. I think we're growing in a peculiar way. I think for a while there, Pokemon was a really solidified subculture for a lot of people to find the things that they were looking for, and it still is, don't get me wrong, but it's hit a critical mass where I think its popularity has really gone back to, I think, where it was originally. And so that same concept of it being like very bro or very masculine has really dominated it. Like, it's very differentiated by like what's cute versus like what's cool, and we have these gaps where it's like, but they can both be in the same pot, I think. And I think we missed that a little bit, especially with like what we complain about. Like Pokemon's not going to make a masterpiece game. It's not going to look as beautiful as certain things. And we know the shortcomings there. And we know they're a multi-billion-dollar franchise, but they're not investing that money in places where I think some of us as adults want it. But at the same time, too, they're creating things for kids. And I think we have to remember that we fell in love with it for very basic reasons. I mean, when we look at it now as adults, we're like, okay, that's what that meant. That's what that, like, fully, that's what we uncover now. But back then, we're like, I like this Pokemon because it speaks to me, period. Right?
Yeah. It's like, I think Squirtle's cute.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's a turtle and a squirrel. But you don't realize that then. And then when you're older, you're like, oh, yeah, that's what that is.
Thus the name, yeah.
Yeah, for a long time, I was very, like, kind of angry about it growing. Like, I was like, oh, the original 150. Like, now we're just kind of, like, adding things. And it almost felt like all of, like, the thing that I find with, like, pop culture is that we never know when to stop. We just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding. And for a really time, I really hated that. But then they started coming out with really good Pokemon that I really liked catching on Pokemon Go. And, like, I really liked, like, kind of, like, working with them and, like, building them up and, like, making them into, like, my little buddies. And I would do that, and then I would be like, why do I hate this? And it's for the same reason, right? Like, it's because it's, like, this is a game for youth that a lot of us have grown up with. And I think that one thing that happens a lot in queer culture is that your understanding of these things shifts as you shift and as you evolve. And I think that a lot of times, like, as queer folks, we start with something that we really, really love in our childhood, and then we grow to love it. And that's not something that straight people necessarily always have, right? Like, a lot of times, like, my cis counterparts will be like, I had this obsession when I was younger, but I've grown out of it. And I find that as queer people, we don't really grow out of things in the same way because we don't really put them in a box that's attached to only being in childhood or only being in this, like, one specific thing or only being for boys or girls. And I think that was the thing that it took me a minute to be like, I'm frustrated about this because it's growing and the world doesn't want it to grow, but, like, I want this to grow. And I wanted kind of to take the 150 I had from the beginning and, like, take them and glue to them and not ever have any change. But, like, again, it's a franchise. Like, they're out there to make money, which is super, super great. But for some of us, it's not about making money. It's about, like, finding ourselves in a world of pop culture that we've never seen ourselves in, right? And I think that's what it was for me.
So along that note, with the saying that the queer people don't really grow out of things, do you think that's partially also just almost like a desire for stability as well? That thing has been there, and, like, whereas cisgender heterosexual people, they might have more stability in other aspects of their life because the society is catered more to them. And, like, at least that's how I feel with a lot of things. Why I haven't grown out of a lot of things that I've enjoyed in my youth is because it's like, I've known this since I was a kid, and it's grown with me, or it's maybe grown in different directions in some cases, but it's still there, and it's still something I can identify, and I can say that I like, and I can say that I care about. And this, piece of media has not done me any wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that that's one of the things, right, is, like, a lot of things get remade, but Pokemon just keeps growing and it changes and it like it's different. They're not, like, remaking things.
Yeah.
They're, like, expanding on them. And, like, that does lead to me feeling a little bit of instability when things grow in ways that I'm not prepared for. And, like, they didn't just take the 150 and shift them, right? Or, like, remake it.
They come up with a Charmander remix.
Exactly.
Kind of thing, right?
They came out with a whole new...
Okay, yeah, sorry, I'm not going to pick the wrong one. As soon as I said it, I'm like, okay, sorry.
I mean, Charmander's got a lot of love, so
Yes.
Yeah,
Charizard
that's true.
specifically.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. I mean, I think when they do, like, for a while there, the remakes were really fun because you're like, oh, cool, new graphics. Like, when Red and Blue got remade to Fire Red and Leaf Green, it was cool because it was like, okay, we have color now, and they have all these new things that were in the other games that we didn't have those first ones. They expanded by giving us, like, kind of a post-game thing. But then the remakes got boring because they were just remakes to be remade. And then they did the Generation 4 Diamond and Pearl remakes, which are straight recreations, just in 3D models. And it got hammered online. People hated this game. And so, like, even now with the remakes, they kind of abandoned them. They're like, okay, now if we're going to do remakes, they have to be remakes for creation's sake. Like they have to have something new to them or bring something new to the table. And so I'm happy that they've decided that it's not for the money necessarily in that regard. But like right now, there's a new game that came out, and so it is part of their new mainline series, like the Legends series. And this one is a flash forward of the Generation games, and so it's kind of isolated to single space. We have some Pokemon getting new megas. Starmie has one. It's a really hot topic right now if you've seen anything about it. It just kind of gets bigger, gets longer legs, and runs around.
Oh.
Yeah,
that just spoke to Kelso.
Yeah, no, honestly, and like I thought I would hate it because I saw the stills when it was getting leaked and stuff, and then I saw it in movement, and I was like, I love how awful this is, because it like and then when you learn about the origins behind some of these things too, you recognize that there is a thought process, and we're also in an era where fan creations are everywhere, and everyone's like, well, Pokemon could just pay for this. I'm like, but it doesn't kind of end there. You can't just pay for something like it's ours now. The artist still has some sort of right and entitlement to it, and they can always come back to it. So, as fast as fans are producing content, Pokemon has to be smart about it too, and they can't just make something that looks similar, because even if there is something similar, immediately the artist's like, I predicted this is my design, and they're all down.
It becomes a whole thing, yeah. Like, and one thing I like the, it's so stupid, I love it kind of thing is like, I think that's sort of also an inherent sense of camp with Pokemon as well, right? Like, I think that might also be why we're drawn to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, so offhand, what do you think is kind of like the campiest thing that you've just like loved about Pokemon? It's like, yes, you're nailing it, sis, or whatever.
I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay. Right now my big Pokemon love is Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
My favorite thing that they do is their stupid themed things. I have a Pikachu with every hat you could possibly imagine. I have like a 2023 Happy New Year crown. I have a Pikachu in a tuxedo. And Pikachu is my favorite Pokemon of all time. Like, I resonate the most with Sylveon, but I am a diehard Pikachu lover, because that's where I found my first love in Pokemon was I saw a Pikachu and I was like, you are cute and I want to put you in my pocket and carry you around. So now that Pikachu has all these outfits, I am like, girl, you are a fashion icon.
Absolutely. And all that campness too. And I think when they did the remakes for Ruby and Sapphire, they actually added cosplay Pikachu into it and had 5 different costumes. And it got a special move for that to correspond to the type, which again, arbitrary. They're like, she's in a dress, she's gonna have fairy type moves. And you're like, okay. I'm like, great, thanks.
You could do a little better than that,
right?
But still.
Quick question for you though. How do you feel about Clefairy?
Okay. I love Clefairy as an aesthetic. As a character, I find her very useless.
Sure. Good to note, because originally that was supposed to be Ash's first Pokemon. So the mascot could have been Clefairy over Pikachu. So they chose something a bit less gender specific with Pikachu.
Oh.
Mass appeal.
Oh my gosh. And look at me.
Pika.
Yeah. Me, the non-binary icon,
Right.
in love with the non-binary icon.
Yeah.
And then look at them, how many years later they make Mimikyu, which is just...
Mimikyu.
It is the concept of the criticism of Pikachu.
Yes. And I love that. You know who also is underrated? Ditto.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I love Ditto. Ditto can evolve into literally any Pokemon. Can you do anything with him? No.
In the anime, it can also change into inanimate objects.
Oh my god. All
And
the
who
things
would
I'm
want to do
learning.
that?
Terrifying.
Back to us being very broy.
Yeah, right. That's so funny. Okay, so does Ditto have pronouns?
They fall. Okay, it depends on who you talk to in the content creating scene, because no, it falls into the gender unknown classification, which is formerly or fandomly known as genderless, but I believe in the games it's coded as gender unknown now.
Gotcha.
I like that because it adds a realm of mystery. It's like, that's not for you.
Yeah, because
It's like, they know, but they're not saying.
Yeah, because Ditto's breeding mechanic is that it can breed with everything except for things that are coded to not breed. So like legendaries, mythicals, baby Pokemon, certain Pokemon that just can't do things like that. Like I think one of the Nidos can't breed, but the other one can. And then it can't breed with itself. So you can't produce another Ditto.
So how are Dittos born?
Pokemon.
Okay, settle in.
Pokemon's breeding mechanics is that their whole thing is that they're always, we don't know how an egg comes into existence. It just appears. So they don't really give a an actual definition. There have been allusions to birthing in multiple other Pokemon, i.e. Kangaskhan, but they don't actually commit to anything like that. They just exist.
So you just breed and then a baby shows up.
Yeah, like
what a nightmare.
You're just hanging out with somebody you like, and it's like the daycare dude is like, oh, these guys are getting along, whatever. And then all of a sudden he's like, hey, an egg appeared. So like imagine just vibing with your friends at your house and boop, there's an egg.
You gotta look after this little guy now.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's going to be in it.
No, is it you? Is it me? It's not half of us.
If you're playing Pokemon Go, it depends on how many kilometers you're about to walk.
And if there's an event happening.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did it come from a rocket?
Yeah, wow. I think that's part of why though it's so good, because it's like it doesn't put it doesn't over explain itself, So it's like it gives a little bit of wiggle room for like people like trans and queer folk or people like cis and straight folk to like kind of take what they want out of it and assume what they want, and you can kind of like, if you're really attached to how babies are born, like the actual like way that babies are actually born in people, then you can kind of put that on Pokemon if that's what makes you feel better. If you're attached to eggs spontaneously showing up in the middle of your footpath, you can just, attach that to yourself. Like you can kind of just like pick and choose what you want for it, and it doesn't over explain itself, because it doesn't, like, some things just don't matter. Like the gender of some Pokemon doesn't matter.
It shouldn't, at least, yeah.
And I think that's great, and I do enjoy that. Like sometimes when you get something they over explain everything, then that gets to the people who are super into canon and they just criticize and they stop enjoying things. Like you try showing not to generalize, but you start showing like most Star Wars fans and new Star Wars things, and they will find things to pick apart because like, this is wrong, this is against established lore. It's like it's like if it's a little more ambiguous, it creates some whimsy, and it's also easier to see yourself in it. Like it's a common theme in doing these episodes so far is like a lot of stuff that even if it's created by people who aren't in the community, there's little nuggets that we kind of latch on to, right? Like there's things that kind of relates to me, and I'll spin it this way. And I like that Pokemon does give a little more room for that. Like you can interpret like, okay, I think that I imagine that this Pokemon would have this kind of experience, or this is how they go through life.
Right.
And I get that. And I like I think in a weird way, the ambiguity is one of its biggest strengths.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and this is where my double-edged sword comes in, because on the one hand, I do like some of the mechanics, and I think that we should be adherent to some of those things. But I also am open to people enjoying it out as they want to. Like you can consume media and understand its like pernicious aspects. That's absolutely fine, as long as you like have the balance between the two, right? Yeah. And so with Pokemon, so Chicorita, my favorite first partner Pokemon, it is generally referred to as a she because it is a very female-presenting Pokemon or feminine-presenting Pokemon. However, its gender ratio is very much in the favor of producing male species continuously. I think it's a 12.5% that you get a female at your given chance. And, with the new games, people would reset for a female. I did it just because, I always, when I first played the Generation 2 games, I had a female, and so I have an attachment. I always name my Chikorita the same thing. I raise her very much the same. And so, like, that's me taking something and applying it in that same way that I do criticize. But what really drives me through the wall, though, is with these content creators that constantly just pick and choose without having that acknowledgement. And so, Eevee's a good example for this, because Eevee is in that similar split where it's a 12.5 chance of being female. And so, more often than not, you're going to have a male Eevee evolve into, a Sylveon, and then they start, referring to how they want to. And again, that's fine. It's subjective. But, just like some acknowledgement would be nice in that case, because then we erase some of those things because like, oh, this Pokemon looks masculine, so it should be a male. Machamp, that entire line can be female. So it's little things like that. And those are the things that you can take into the real world. And so if you're playing a game that can teach you these things and you're adherent to it in the game, how can you not extrapolate that into your everyday life? Right? A Pokemon evolves, you call it by its new name. How can you not do that to a human being?
Yeah.
We evolve.
It's not
change.
still a Machop. Like
When I get into drag, I'm not Michael. I'm Grand Masala. And, I prefer female pronouns in that space, but, I'm not mad if it gets my attention. But, people think we're the same person. I mean, apparently I'm nicer as Grand Masala than I am in Michael, which is even funnier because my tagline is about being spicy. But, you know, if that's how the hand is dealt, I'll take it. But it's one of those things I struggle with a little bit because it's like these are different personas and they are different people. They're inherently at my root, but they're different. And I think that does come from me learning from Pokemon. You take that Pokemon and you evolve and you still have that as your base, but you're a different version of that.
You haven't consumed your old self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not abracadabraing it.
I think Eevee's such an interesting one for that too, though, because it's like there's so many ways that you can go with an Eevee, right? Like there's so many evolutions that like. How many are there?
There's
8?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
8. Oh, that was a good. I'm so glad I got that right off the back. But yeah, there are 8 different ways that you can go, and like you can like kind of like, especially in like Pokemon Go. And I don't know if this is the same in the other games, but like you can hack the game so that you can get the evolution that you want. Mm-hmm. And I think that is just like super cool. But you do see everybody instantly defaulting to certain evolutions are female and certain evolutions are male. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's not actually, it's not that simple. But I think that that's one of my favorite Pokemon is Eevee for that reason, because I picture Eevee as kind of like, again, as a trans icon, where it's like whatever situation this Pokemon is in can impact like what's going to happen and what they're going to turn into and kind of like what way they're going to go, you know?
It's kind of both nature and nurture in that
exactly
sense, right? Like it's you know, of all the evolutions, there's so many different ways that you can go, and it's very, you know, coded to the trans experience and figuring out who you are and growing. But then also just in life, like there's so many ways you can evolve and grow as a person, and there's so many ways that your experiences shape who you are, and how you navigate those experiences shape who you are. So it's a great example there. And like, I don't know, if anyone just straight up like hated Eevee, I'd be like, I think there's a problem with you.
Yeah.
Like we're supposed to grow and we're supposed to figure things out, and like it's beautiful all the different ways that you can. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard not to resonate with that, especially someone who's done a lot of introspection and inward looking when it comes to who they are on a philosophical level, right?
Yeah. I mean, with the new games too, they added there's a lot of customization, as we've seen with some of the newer games, right? Back when you started, you had one option. Then they finally added a boy girl. Then they added, you know, still boy girl, but we finally got different skin tones. We got different hairstyles, and now we have like you can use everything now in the game. In the current games, like you can wear a romper that is very feminine presenting, but you can still be a male character, and so like it doesn't really differentiate between that anymore, and so that's really nice. I think in last generations games too, they had a building that had a men's washroom, a women's washroom, and they had a washroom that you clicked on and it said anybody can use this washroom. And it's like, if this game can do it, again, how can we not emulate this in our real life? I just don't understand. Maybe this is where my mind doesn't work. I just don't understand how you don't digest the media you're intaking.
Yeah, I think some people might just sort of pick and choose the messages that they want. And, you know, some people look a little deeper for the meaning, and some people try and almost ignore that part of it, right? Like it's, I don't know, and people can consume media however they want. And like that's the thing is like, you know, I'm very against gatekeeping, and like just like you know a lot more lore than I do, and you're not talking down to me because I don't know the lore, because like you're saying like you honor those things and you understand them, but you're not gonna be like, you're wrong for enjoying this in the way that you do.
Yeah. I had I had like a discussion with some of my friends recently, because we were like, why is there no voice acting in the game? I'm like, oh, I don't want like a voice telling me how to read this. But then I was sitting there and I was like, actually it would be nice to kind of just like listen to this and not like have to like make it up in some areas. Because like, I mean, there's some points in the game where it does get a little boring. You're like, okay, just now I like the hand holding, take me through it. But then when I don't want the hand holding, I'm very against it. So again, like, you know, that's how I consume this media. But like, I think I'm finally on the side where I'm like, you know what, voice acting isn't bad, because I play so many other games that have it and it's never been a problem. So why am I having the gatekeeping within the franchise I love the most? So, you know, and that's me also growing slowly but surely, but I got onto that side where I now believe that they could work on to implementing that somewhere. They've done it in some games. If you've ever seen or played Detective Pikachu, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
For those that haven't.
So there's a fun clip of Burmese speaking, and I'm not going to try to include it. So if you guys want to try and find it, it's out there. But it just says his name over and over. And it's fun to hear it, because they're like, this is what would happen at Pokemon Reveal. It's just sitting here saying its name, trying to explain something to you. But then when you read it, you're just like, burr, me, me. But imagine that shouting it behind you, trying to like be like, I need your help.
Yeah.
But then the voice for Pikachu, it's just this gruff, middle-aged, masculine voice that's been like, hey, man, let's go do things. And you're like, oh, that's Pikachu.
And that's the thing, is that's kind of in sometimes in a franchise that gives you a lot of leeway to sort of build your own story. You're like, that's not how you sound. like I've heard your voice for years in my head, and that's not it.
Yeah. Maybe that's the difficulty, is that we've been through it for so long that if you add some of these voices, it's kind of like, oh, that's not where I've been for the last 25 or 30 years with this franchise. So that tosses it around. I mean, this new game, they took Pikachu saying Pikachu in game out. It's back to its like little noise that it did in the beginning, which is nice. Yeah. Yes. Because they did it for Eevee too for the last few games. And again, no, they're back to just doing their little in-game cries. And so that also feels nice, but that's the nostalgia, I think, more than anything else.
We love an in-game cry.
One of the things that I find is so interesting is, like, when we talk about how people consume media, people play the games in so many different ways. And that I find so cool, because for me, my goal, get one of every single, like, that's my autism coming out, right? I'm like, I need to fill the Pokédex. I need one of every single Pokemon in every gender that I can. And, like, you know, I need to, like, get every single one, and I will spend my life doing that. How do you play it?
Wait a second. Are we attributing the fact that we might have autism because of Pokemon forcing us to catch them all? Just kidding.
Yes.
Allegedly.
you gotta. It's not an option. You gotta catch them.
Yeah, exactly.
It says it right there.
And then you're told that, and you're like, oh yeah, I really do.
Yes.
Someone with a PhD. Do you want to research this?
This is a great. Somebody has, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
I don't have any funding for you, whoever you are, but if you want to, that'd be great.
I'm sure somebody out there does.
So how do you play the game?
I do that, actually. I do like to do it.
thing.
And I like to have a living dex. I like to kind of complete as much as I go. I'm a bit of a collector. If anybody knows my obsession with another franchise from another powerhouse company, you know, I have a shrine in my house to this very specific title. Yeah, so I mean, I do like collecting things. I think
I appreciate the teaser, but it looks like Kelso's about to burst here. So what is this other?
This is my giveaway. The ocean chose me. It's Moana.
Oh, I did know that about you, actually. I did know that about you.
It is a staple of my drag. It's a character I do constantly. But I'm quite a collector with it. But that's also like, it goes to like with Pokemon, I think. Now that they're branching out to other cultures and other spaces outside of just Japan, we can see how that ties to us, right? There are people that the last region was based in Spain, and so there are people that are like, oh my god, my culture, I see it in a game, and so that's really nice. And with Moana, that was what it was. Like, you know, I grew up being like, cultural representation matters, and all the Hindu representation at the time was like Apu and all these like side characters, or like, you know, grocery store owners and like all this stuff. And so when Moana came out, I'm Fijian as well, and so seeing the Fijian culture just there, I was like, okay. And so like, we're not native Fijian, but like my family is like Hindu-Fijian, so like Indo-Fijian or Indo-Polynesian. And so seeing that, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And the Pokemon also had like a region based off the Hawaiian Islands. And so the difference though is that they were very much Hawaiian based and a bit more on the Polynesian side, but seeing the Fijian stuff, it was still Fijian based, but like those are things that were in my house growing up, right? And so it was different. Like I was like, oh man, like that's a shell that like we had. That tapestry is something that we used to have. Like the sulus and the skirts and like the attire. I'm just like, wow. And I've been to Fiji, so I'm like, it looks like that. So it was just really cool. And you know, I'm happy that other people are getting that through Pokemon as well too.
That's so cool.
It's interesting when it can cross-cultural boundaries in different ways. Like I know, just as we recently did a pro wrestling episode, and one of the things I came across is there was recently a match in Mexico where the two wrestlers, one was Halucha and one was Machamp.
Yes.
And they had the full ring gear, and they had the colors, and they had the masks, and everyone was just going nuts for this because they just loved it so much. And it's just like, because they saw themselves represented, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to represent you in our thing that we do, which is pro wrestling. And like, the match is sick if you have a chance to watch it.
So it was promo for the new games with Mega Halucha.
Oh,
Yeah, which,
yes.
you know, fantastic.
I love Machamp, though.
Yes.
Like, Machamp is like, if I were to like pick a Pokemon that's like always in my fighter squad, it's
go.
Machamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solid choice.
Yeah. Extra hands. Why not?
All right, so you're saying across different games and through different things that you always have like Machamp in your fighting squad, right?
Yes.
So I think it's time to branch out and talk about some of the different games that are out. And like I said, they're always coming out. So there is one that has actually a trans character in it, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yes.
And what game is that in?
So it is Generation 6. It's X and Y.
So that's an interesting choice that it's X and Y.
Absolutely.
People have been paying attention to chromosomes.
Yeah. It was the first game on the 3DS. So it's also, there's that. And then there's the X and Y axis. I don't know anything about technology.
Or graphs.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The way that went over my head.
Sorry.
But yeah, there's a character, and it's kind of like it's hard to get to because it's not an immediate character. You have to go through like this battle facility to get to this character. In the Japanese translation, it's a bit more direct in the fact that this is a trans character because you battle this character, and when you're done, and they say, "Can you believe I used to be a karate king or karate master a year ago?" The marvels of modern medicine. And that is exactly what it says in the Japanese text. And when they translated it over into English text, it says the same thing, but it uses the English translation of that trainer term. And then it says something again about medicine being fantastic. And so again, it's one of those things that you had to dig for it and you found it and it made its rounds. And for the longest time, actually, it was just a still. It was like someone's phone grab, like a photo from like their old smartphone. So it was grainy and I was like, is this real? But recently, I think a year ago, there's a YouTube channel that found the clip and they uploaded it in its full entirety so you can actually watch it. But again, you have to like go through the whole game, start working this battle facility and get through about like the 21 or 41 trainers before you can get to the specific character and have this battle with them. And so that was big. That was, I think, 2013 that this...
I was about to say, I've been hearing about it recently, but so it's not a new thing. It's actually like 10 plus years ago. Yeah. That's wild. And like, also not surprisingly that like to get to any sort of like trans content, it's hidden behind so many walls and you have to do so much extra work. It feels like there's a metaphor in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, her name is Beauty Nova, and Black Belt is the English translation of the trainer class. There's also a few other ones too that are like in there and they're all alluded to, especially when you get into some of the games where your protagonist interacts with your rival and they don't change the dialogue. So if they may have a romantic interjection with the male character and they're a female rival but they don't change it, they've been a bit more savvy with that in the newer games, so they're kind of a bit more cognizant about things. But there's some characters that definitely just don't change the dialogue. And
sorry, cognizant in a good way or a bad way in terms of representation?
I think it maybe in less of a great way. I mean, in X and Y, it's a good example because we have our first official trans character in a game, but they also have a dialogue with a female rival who, with the male rival or with the male protagonist, is like, I've never watched fireworks with a boy before, but with the female protagonist is like, I hope we become best friends. So the undertones are different.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I don't think they mean like best friends / roommates in the historical sense when it comes to...
No. But then Pokemon also had like this light novel series in the 90s that had an officially out trans character. Never got translated. It had, I think, maybe 21 issues of it, and they're all standalone stories. But it dealt with this youth that identified as a male, and the mother was like, oh, if you want a child, my goodness, if you want a Pokemon for your upcoming birthday, Christmas present, all wrapped in one, just be a bit more feminine. So the child obliged and then wanted a cool Pokemon, but got a Pikachu and got mad and ran out. And then their best friend who...
They should mean Pikachu's not a cool Pokemon?
That's what they thought. They wanted something like tough and gruff. So I was like, oh, wow, we really are playing with this masculine-female like dichotomy. But they ran out. They storm out on their mom for this. They're mad. And then their friend runs after them. And actually their friend like makes a statement where it's like, it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl. You're just being a bad human. And I was like, ah!
Oh snap!
And then the Pikachu saves them, and like this boy was like, "I love Pikachu now." So it kind of ends in a happy note.
Because it comes to Pikachu to rise above and be the better entity here, right?
Yes, yes.
And that's what Pikachu does, though,
Listen,
right?
Pikachu was done so dirty in the Detective Pikachu movie with that voice acting. Ryan Reynolds, all the love, but like it just didn't fit. So like, Pikachu needs some success.
It didn't fit though, but yeah, like.
Although if they did get Danny DeVito to do it, it would have been such a soft spot for me.
No.
Fair.
Agree to disagree on that one, I suppose. Okay. So Danny B, who would be your dream Pikachu voice cast?
ER Fight Master.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very queer pick.
I know. You know, I just feel like that would be right, though. Because I think, like, I don't like, because I'm the same way. I don't want you to speak words.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, like, I remember the Pika, and I was like, that even is a lot for me. I want the sounds. I want that electric, because that's, like, that's it.
Yeah.
And also, I feel like Pikachu used to be thicker.
Oh yeah, Chonky Chew.
Right? Chonky Chew. Okay, and it's like now we're talking about beauty norms because they are thinning the girl out.
We have a Zempic Chew.
I was about to say, I'm like, what region is Ozempic from in the?
Yeah, right. Yeah. The Generation 5, the New York generation.
They're just like these little glowing balls. And...
I mean, they've reintroduced the thicker Pikachu because like they did Gigantamax last generation, and they brought back Thick Chew. So all the names, I'm gonna give it all the names. BBL Chew.
There are probably are there actual fandoms based on all of these different Pikachu?
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a big conversation online right now.
Really?
Fat Pikachu.
Oh. I guess that makes sense because, like, you see the memes going around with like the chonky Pikachu from like the original show, and
I like that discourse a lot more than especially like the Vaporeon stuff that was floated around a few years ago.
See, that's what I'm saying, growing out.
What's the controversy here? I'm not on the internet apparently.
Relatively popular YouTuber decided to smash or pass Pokemon, and of one of the peculiar choices of his was Vaporeon being
was like the best
smash,
because they were factoring in like the height, the fact that they're wet, the fact that like even their powers would allow them to regenerate and that they would be able to withstand things. Like it was a whole write-up onto why Vaporeon would be the one that they would smash, and it's terrible, it's horrific.
Yeah.
And like and it's like so yeah, like I'm very defensive about it, but also if like a bro guy comes up and they're a Vaporeon fan, I'm like,
I don't trust you.
But also it's like it also goes back to like why was this acceptable and became such a big okay when like if a queer person makes a comment, it's sexual immediately, even if it's not. You know? Like it's just you are literally have made a detailed list on how you want to sexually assault a Pokemon.
Yeah,
and it's okay because
are you telling me Vaporeon can't consent, and you're writing this whole scenario out,
like,
right?
This is literally like bestiality.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Right? It's like
it is, and
it is, but on a fake. And it's like why? Like, and that's the thing. It's like, why do we need to sexualize everything? And why are you telling me I'm sexualizing everything?
Yeah,
and you're smash or passing it, but
like, and like the thing is, people will come for and like be terrible to like a trans creator for saying much less offensive things than that. And it's just like, okay, you can do that. There's no consequences. In fact, you probably got more fame out of it because now everyone's sharing like screenshots around, right? Like it's kind of wild.
So are we making justice for Vaporeon t-shirts? Did somebody already do that?
Oh, there's been a movement. I
feel like this is I missed it. I missed the movement.
I was there in the heyday of the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic issue, and there was a few days where like the fandom who was like, we're not into clopping, and we went online and we reported images that would make it through the safe search because we're like, this is still for kids, like I don't even like children, but I will still like support their innocence, like let them get corrupted on their own, like let them find it the way that we found it,
the way
in the
nature
dark
intended.
Corners of the internet.
Not through a safe search. I don't want you to be like, I love Twilight Sparkle, and then see things that you shouldn't be seeing. Be like, I love Gardevoir. Okay, what does Gardevoir have a full rack?
Okay, truly though. Yeah. Do we think Jinx is trans? I meant to ask this and I forgot.
She is a female-exclusive gender species, and unfortunately, due to the controversy of Jinx, they've kind of abandoned it. Like, but there was a, I don't know if we can talk about the leaks, but there was like a huge Terra leak, a breach of their data about a year ago, and some material came out that they had a Mega Jinx planned, or a Galarian version of Jinx planned, or the alternative region, sorry. And the designs came out, and I'm just like, this poor Pokemon has been abandoned when it was a part of a trio that kind of all evolved and got more things, and she's just not blackface anymore.
Well, so at least she's still growing.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the only change. They just kind of leave her there. She has, I think, not the least amount of merch. There's other Pokemon that have, like, I think one piece of merchandise, but she doesn't have a lot. So
Does every Pokemon, like, all what? There's got to, how many are there now?
we're into the thousands.
Yeah, because I was like, there's over 1,000 for sure.
Yeah.
Every single Pokemon has merch?
At least one. Yeah.
Oh, now this is my new version of Gotta Catch Them All.
No, you're gonna have to catch them all in real life now.
Yeah, and they're limited editions.
Sorry, I had to
Japanese
find out like this.
exclusive. Yeah.
Thanks for being on the podcast.
Well, and so like this is the thing is I thought I was catching them all in real life in Pokemon Go because you can walk around your real life and catch them all, and now I have to actually have the physical manifest. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Sorry to burst your bubble. I mean, even Funkos too. I mean, they have like how many variations of Funkos? They have their Flock, their Diamond, their Brilliance, and then like whatever variations that they have Pikachu with the hat.
I did know that actually.
Yeah.
I did. Like birthday Pikachu with the little balloons on your birthday. That's like happy birthday. I'm like, Pikachu. It's so good.
It's so good.
She's so
So one thing I want to do that I think may or may not be fun, and if it's not, we can cut this bit here. But I just came up with this idea is so I want to, if we're talking about sort of queer identities in Pokemon and how we attach our own meanings and things to Pokemon, like I want to say like if we go through like some different queer identities and which Pokemon pops to mind first.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say if you both pick the same one, then we'll be okay. That's too obvious. So we'll just go a little deeper.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say first, let's start. What Pokemon would you say you identify with a gay man?
Jinx.
I would say Serena.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. I
okay.
can see that.
Yeah, January 7, Queen, stomping around.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I would definitely say Jinx.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, let's be part of my alter ego.
Okay. So okay, what's the lesbian Pokemon?
Lickitung.
Sableye?
What?
Were you trying to find it? Because my Lickiting's my first as well.
Yeah,
But Sableye,
I mean, that's what I mean. I think it's too obvious to go Lickitung. I think like a tongue involved with it. But I think the reason why I say Sableye is just like, just adorned in jewels, a little short.
Interesting.
Okay. So let's say you both were going to go Lickitung. So what would your deeper lesbian pick?
My
be?
deeper lesbian pick?
Yeah, beyond Lickitung.
It honestly might be Gardevoir because it gives very like power femme vibes, and power femme lesbians terrify me. And Gardevoir also terrifies me. And also I picture that Pokemon to be like literally 27 feet tall.
Yeah.
I will also say, though, in the new games, they have Mega Malamar, and it's very 80s, like big hair shoulder pads. Okay. So I think maybe that might be my newer one, but just not immediate in my forethought, right?
Okay. Yeah. Malamar. I wouldn't even thought of that.
Yeah, right? I'm just thinking, like, now that you say that, you're like, power, whatever. I'm like, oh, yeah, wait, there's so many ways this can go.
Right? It's like, are we talking tiny, cute, like, little micro lesbian? Or are we talking like masculine?
That's Sableye,
yeah.
So they're a couple, Sableye and Gardevoir.
Oh my gosh. And like the height difference is so lesbian.
Exactly. That's why I thought this would be interesting, because there's different interpretations. Like there's obviously not one way to be gay. There's not one way to be a lesbian, but it's like, so I thought and I thought this would be fun because you're each picking different things as to what you think are the defining characteristics.
Yeah. You go through the tropes too, right? Sorry.
Oh yeah, there's the tropes, but like there's some basis in reality there, and we, like, I know Gardevoir lesbians and I know Sableye lesbians.
Exactly.
They're all amazing and they're my friends.
Yes.
and like that's the cool thing is that different ones come to mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay, bisexual Pokemon.
Oh, I had a choice for this. I was thinking about it the other day, actually. Oh, let me think for a hot minute. Oh, Clamperl.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah.
You know why? Because I even picture the tongue piercing.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
the pearl,
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that looks.
As soon as you said that, I'm like, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, it's pink and blue, which is great, and has like it's black and white undertones. And then there's when it's shiny, it's orange and purple. Right? Just really, really solid colors.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I can't get, like, because bisexual people are just like the best. So I'm like, I can't like, I don't know. Because bisexuality is such like a friggin' massive thing. It could be any of those Pokemon. All of the Pokemon are bisexual.
Well,
I'm pretty sure.
Well,
Mew.
like, all of them, but no, it's Mew.
But it's Mew.
But I do like thank you for not like erasing the bisexuals and saying that any of them could be or are, right?
They all are.
And that's the thing, is that but Mew is a good. Why would you say Mew?
Because Mew is adorable and tiny, and like nobody knows what Mew's doing. Nobody knows what Mewtwo's doing. Like nobody knows what any of that little area is doing. And I feel like bisexual people are like anomalies to me. I'm like, you are. How can you love everybody like that? That is wild to me.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, and I feel like Mew is a like lover of everybody. Also, it's kind of like the anomaly that you always try to get to, but you can never quite reach.
Fair. Yeah, I like
and,
that.
and I think there's even, especially when it comes to bisexuality, there's different interpretations as well.
Exactly.
Like, because there's different types of folks, right? Like for me, like the first one that comes to mind for me is like a Quaxley.
Ooh, okay.
I would say. Just because, like, you know, immaculately groomed and just like, you know, just like it just gives off those vibes to me. And like, but, you know, obviously different type, but like, but yeah, okay. So trans Pokemon.
The obvious is Sylveon.
Yeah. We'll say Sylveon is the most obvious, so we're not going to go there. So go a little deeper.
Okay, so do you want lore with this one?
Please.
Okay,
I
so,
love a bit of lore.
Meryl and Azumarill existed in Generation 2. Generation 3, they introduced a baby Pokemon for that line, Azurill. Azurill's gender ratio was more, I believe, male than female. However, Meryl and Azurill, I think, is 50 split right down the middle. So there's a chance that you would have an Azurill evolve into Meryl and it would have a complete gender swap. So I would probably say Meryl, just for that reason, like for the lore content. They've changed it now that it will stay the gender that it is before, but the ratios are still the same.
Interesting. I would say Ditto, but like I would say Ditto, just because like for the obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Ditto's transitioning every 5 minutes.
And what color is it shiny?
What color is it? Blue? Yeah, and it's pink, not shiny. Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say purple, but I think that's just because like my graphics card is going.
Oh, kind of great. There's some lines coming in from the side.
Well, you know, like. Okay, but Grimer. What would you consider? I consider Grimer. I always want to know what people could consider Grimer as.
Ooh. Okay, I've got it, but I'll let you.
Yeah, no, go ahead, because I
you know, at the risk of being a cop-out, like Grimer's bi, but is like, but is really like clumsy and awkward about it. Like Grimer's a disaster bisexual that is just can't manage their emotions and their feelings, and they don't go about things responsibly. They just want to love everyone, and it doesn't always work out for them because they don't know their capacity.
I would say like a fun ace. Like I just see them like they're just kind of solitary, and they're there for a good time.
Yeah. Okay, so
totally.
Very opposite interpretation.
Yes,
like, wow, okay.
Interesting.
Because to me, it's just I don't know. For me, it's like, especially when you get like the, I forget what region like the colorful one, right?
Lola.
Yeah. So that one gives more. Yeah, that's the disaster bisexual.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But I'd say like the more like sort of like the sort of like the default are kind of like the sort of like the. What would you even call the coloring there? Like, or the, like, you know, like the pile of goo.
Yeah, the Kanto, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say, okay, yeah. So I can see that. I'd say sort of ace pile of goo, and then disaster bisexual with bright colors.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and like a little bit of rocks in them.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm actually going to change my gay man one to Doug Trio. Because have you seen all of the lore around? Is that actually real? Is that what Doug Trio looks like under the ground? Because if you've seen,
do not search this if you have your safe search.
If you've seen on the internet,
but there are also other images of what people think a Diggler Doug Trio is.
Oh gosh.
On the same, I was gonna say I want to change mine to Diggersby because I think it's just such a bear. Like,
Yep.
Diggersby is a good one.
Yeah.
Diggersby is a good one.
Yeah.
I feel like Like, and that's the thing is every single one of these Pokemon is attached to the queer community somehow.
So many ways.
Yeah.
Like all the bear Pokemon are bears. In their own ways, right? Like,
and then I don't know. I don't know where it started, but maybe either of you do. But where sort of everyone's like, yeah, Gengar is a queer icon. It's like, why? I don't know. They just are.
Yeah. It's like actually though, I would just say yeah.
but we're just like, yes, this is ours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why Gengar is a queer icon.
Yeah, I'm not fighting it though. I'm
No.
not saying anyone's wrong for saying that.
No.
Like,
There's like a fan theory that's kind of semi-supported by the company where like Gengar and Clefairy are doppelgangers.
oh,
And so I wonder if that could also be like the driving force behind that fandom. I'm not like, this is just my speculation, right? Because I mean, they have very similar silhouettes and like they have been paired in merchandise together before. And so that's kind of that dichotomy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I was meaning to ask about starter Pokemon. What was the term used?
They call them first partner Pokemon.
First partner
now.
Pokemons, yes.
Because they've expanded it beyond just those three. Because like Eevee's a part of it, Pikachu's a part of it, and like whatever they use in the spinoffs. So
Yeah, so I'll say we'll edit that part out to make me sound better, but we won't because like whatever. But so what would yours be?
Well, my like starter, like, because like when I picture a starter Pokemon, I picture like you have the 3 Pokeballs in front of you. There are the 3 options. Yeah, mine would be Cyndaquil, which is like the fire hedgehog little guy. I really gravitate towards fire Pokemon, which I've always found is such a problem because fire gets put out very easily by water, obviously. So it's like at every single time, like I always like I put myself into a really problematic state because I have a whole lineup of all my favorite fire Pokemon, and then I'm like, you know what? 1 Gyarados, and I am done. I am cooked. But I'm not because all my fire's out. You know? Yeah.
I love that. From the same 3, mine is Chikorita. I don't know why. I've just always loved Chikorita. So way to go, Johto.
I feel like grass Pokemon are the way to go when you're starting out.
If I was a gym leader, I would be a grass type gym leader. I'd obviously not be successful because grass type is awful, but I have a team in mind that I think would be a burden.
Ooh, I think I would be, if I was a gym leader, I would be like a fighting Pokemon gym leader
Machamp.
for sure. With Machamp. I love Machamp. Love seeing all those fists flying around.
Have you seen his Gigantamax version?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So gorge.
Oh,
Yeah, it's great.
What about yours?
Huh?
gym
What about
leader.
you? Gym leader and your starter.
I don't know. This isn't about me.
You're here too.
No, I'll go for starter. I've always had a soft spot for Squirtle. Just because, like, come on, look at that little one. Like,
True.
it's just like adorable and just, I don't know, just scratches a certain itch for me. And sorry, would put out your fire type.
Thanks.
Yeah, not a lot of counters there.
I know.
Yeah, and for gym leader, I would start with grass because I like growing, and like it's a good natural way to start. Like, starting from, the ground up, so to speak, right? Like it's nice if I'm starting and I'm looking to grow. Then I think it's a natural choice.
Yeah.
That's so deep. I just want to punch things.
Well, but you can punch them deeply.
Exactly.
There are grass fighting types.
There are, yeah. Yeah, but I want as a non-binary person, I'm very attached to my personal experience with gender, and everything has to be boy. And I feel like the fighting Pokemon, like Machamp, is boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Virizion, which is the legendary grass fighting type, is based off the 3 Musketeers.
Really?
Like that trio is based off them, and then they have the Keldeo, which is based off the 4th Musketeer. Yeah, and so Virizion's based off the one that's very vain. I don't know my
D'Artagnan?
maybe. I'm not well versed in my Musketeerisms, but yeah. So Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion are based off the 3, and then Keldeo is the 4th that they undertake at some point in the story.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So I'll have to. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Swords of Justice.
Learning all kinds of things over here.
I have too much in my head about Pokemon. Like I say, I think about this way too much.
Okay, I also love a good deerling that changes with the seasons.
Yes.
Nice pink, nice orange, nice blue. Oh,
And you get those, and you get the Sawsbuck, and they're just all so beautiful together.
They really are. Yeah. So I think we're probably at a good time here to sort of start wrapping things up. But I want to give either of you an opportunity if there's anything that you want to touch on or anything. So I'll say we'll go into sort of wrap mode where you can, if there's anything else you just want to say that we haven't touched on, and then also if there's anything that, any cool work you're doing or anything that you want to plug, then feel free to do that as well. Not obligatory, but you can if you like.
okay.
So who wants to go first with that?
I don't do cool things, so.
I don't have a lot in the works. I'm a very on-the-go person. But if you want to find out what I'm doing with my drag, you can find me at GM the Queen. That is GMTHQUEEN on Instagram. That is where I'm the most active for my drag personas. So any new shows, any new Pokemon drag themed things will come up there.
Okay, sounds good. And Kelso, yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do much, but I do work in the queer world, and we do a lot with students and stuff. And like the most fun place that you can find us is anything to do with the Landing. So at the Landing here at the U of A, which is actually where we're filming, is kind of cool. Yeah, I kind of work with queer and trans students, and I'm always doing cool stuff, and you can always find us there.
Okay, well, thank you both so much for being here. This has been a delightful time. Again, I'm your host, Allison Hadley. Thanks for joining us on the Rainbow Connection podcast, where we explore the intersections between queer culture and nerd culture. You can follow us on Instagram at RainbowConPod, and we will see you next time.